Are you a fan of religion? Because I must admit, after leading churches 15 years as my job, I've grown to hate it. And I'm going to show you why, because there's 5 things that really bother me about it. But then we still need to find a way to live a deeper and a meaningful life. So then I just want to show you what I think is better, what I found to be better than religion. Welcome to A Little Nudge. My name is Derek, and for the last 3 decades I've been helping people explore faith and relate it to their ordinary everyday lives. And on this channel, in these videos, I'm just giving you little nudges, little tools that are going to help you live a deeper and a more meaningful life. So yeah, for the last 15 years I've worked full-time for 2 churches in the UK, and I'm involved with preaching on a Sunday, teaching people the Bible, leading, pastoring and helping individuals, leading funerals and weddings. I've done the whole thing, and over that time I've grown to hate religion. The more of I see of it, the more that I hate it. And I'm not talking about any particular religion, I'm talking about an approach which has like 3 elements really. You have a God or gods and a way of life, things that you need to believe, things that you need to do. And then the second thing you have is this idea that if you believe the right things and if you do the right things, then you'll get rewarded, you'll get good things, you'll be accepted either by God or the community, the people of faith, or both probably. And then the reverse of that is if you don't quite measure up, if you don't believe the right things, if you don't do the right things, then you're going to face some sort of rejection, either from God or from people, either the community at large or how people treat you. And as I kind of seen this, there's 5 destructive effects that kind of all pull together to really reveal why I hate this thing so much. So when you have religion, what tends to happen is you get 5 things. The first thing you get is a focus on outward actions and what people say they believe and how they behave. Because you can't see the heart and the inside, you've got to take the outside as a proxy of that. And so that gets emphasized all the time. And then from that, what happens is you end up with things being exclusive because you're using behaviors as the kind of assessment criteria. You can see who measures up and who doesn't, who's doing the right things and who doesn't. And those who are doing the right things, they get in, they get welcomed, but those who don't are not, and becomes exclusive. But the third thing happens, that even if you're in because you're following the rules, you're behaving the right way, you're measuring up or whatever. Even if you get in, a lot of the time from people I speak to, that what happens is there's a sense of inadequacy inside because there's a sense of perfectionism that you've got to keep measuring up, but you know the inside, you know what you're really like. The people often feel a fake, they feel they've got to keep it up, and they feel this tremendous sense of pressure and drive. And the 4th thing that happens from all that is you end up with this culture of judgment, that those who follow the rules and the behaviours are in, and those who don't, who are out. And you'll get language that's positive about the insiders and maybe not so good about those that are outsiders. And then from that, you can get this level of fear that while you're in the inside, as long as you measure up, you're fine. But if you don't, then you could be on the outside. And so you get that judgment. And then from all this, what that means is those in charge, those with authority, those with leadership, have tremendous power, and with great power often comes abuse. Even if people start by being really good people, by having all this power to exclude and control, there's very easily for that to damage what is going on. Now, I'm not going to dwell on why I hate all this stuff. It should be pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious the damage it does to those people who are excluded, but it's also damaging to those who are inside, who live with a sense of fear and needing to measure up. But then Jesus comes along, and Jesus makes 3 things clear, and most people don't get this. If you've not read the stories of Jesus, this will really surprise you. But if you read the original accounts, 3 things from Jesus become abundantly clear. The first thing is he's weary with religion. All right, actually, he sees religion as the enemy. The second thing is he didn't come to start a new religion called Christianity. You don't get that from Jesus at all. In fact, what gets really clear from the stories of Jesus is he's come to end the need for religion and clear it all away. And you find that his main fights are with religious people. They're the people who want to get rid of him. They're the people who are wound up with the people. They're the ones who fall out. And when Jesus is telling stories, and the stories have got good guys and bad guys, the bad guys are nearly always the religious people because of what he's saying. And this iconic moment, this story where the religious people have found this woman who's committed adultery, which is a rule that you're not allowed to break. You're not allowed to do that. And so they drag her before Jesus so Jesus can judge her. Interestingly, they don't drag the man, but they drag the woman. And Jesus, in this moment, sees all these men gathered around and this woman in front of him. And what the story says is Jesus starts writing in the sand. And it doesn't say what he's doing, but he's just writing in the sand. And you can feel the glare of all the religious people as they're desperate for him to condemn this woman to death, because that should be the sentence. And Jesus said these words, which reveals so much about what he's about. I mean, you can see the behavior of the people around him demonstrates those 5 things that I just talked about as the problem with religion. But what Jesus does, as he's writing in the sand, he says this. He said, the person who's without sin, so the ones who are pure, who haven't done anything wrong, then yeah, you can cast the first stone. You cast the first stone and stone this woman to death. And that's all he says, and he carries on writing in the sand. And the people are a bit stuck at that point, the religious leaders, because even the best of the best of the best know they're not without sin. They're not without fault. Even if they're much better than everybody else in their behaviour, they don't achieve the standard of being pure like God is and like we're called to be. And so gradually, one by one, they all walk away and leave. And Jesus is left there with the woman. And he looks up and he acts surprised. And he's like, oh, is there nobody here to condemn you? Is nobody here to stone you? And he says, go on, you can go. Go and sin no more. Go and change your lifestyle. You know, stop walking away from God and start walking to God. And you find really in Jesus' reaction, he's not following the path of religion and those 5 destructive things. But at the same time, Jesus is not saying behavior doesn't matter. He's not saying like everybody should be free to do whatever they want at all. And he's kind of saying 3 things. He's kind of saying we're all the same. We're all fragile and we're broken. We're all on the same level of need of God. You know, none is better behaved than other. Actually, we're all failures and we're all struggling. And then the second thing is he offers a welcome to everyone. He says to this woman, I don't condemn you. And then he says, but go and sin no more. Go and change your lifestyle. And so he kind of says we're all broken, but we're all welcomed and we're all encouraged to change our behavior. And really the key with Jesus is in which the order in which things happen. So what religion says is you need to behave in a certain way, believe certain things, achieve a standard, and then you become acceptable. You get rewards. Yeah. When Jesus says, actually, none of us measure up. Do you know what I mean? None of us are good enough. None of us can achieve the standard we're supposed to achieve. It says we've all fallen short of God's glory, of who we're meant to be. And so Jesus offers us the welcome, acceptance, because of what he did on the cross. But then that acceptance, and we see it with Jesus' interaction with people all the time, that triggers an internal change and a response. It's like a story I once read of a wife who's in a very controlling relationship. And the man would give her a list of all the different things he wanted her to do. And you need to do this, and you need to do this. And I want the house like this, and I want this to happen. And this is what I expect. I'm the man of the house, and all that sort of stuff. And she had all these rules and all these things she had to do. And she just found it so oppressive. And she could never quite get it all right, because she would do all the things, but he'd come back and he'd always find fault because she'd never quite measured up. And eventually their relationship broke down. And after counselling and after healing, she eventually got into a new relationship where the man treated her with kindness and with grace, where there was equality and love and all that sort of stuff. And they had a fantastic marriage for years and years. And then one day she was cleaning out a drawer. And as she cleaned out a drawer, she found in the back corner, and her heart cried out as she realised what it was. And it was the list that her first husband had given her of all the rules, all the standards she had to do. And as she pulled it out, and she decided she was going to throw it away, but she decided just to look at it. And as she unfolded it and looked and read it, you know, she can feel the anger and the bitterness coming up, but then it died away. And she realised that in a second marriage, she was actually doing everything on the list. You know, I mean, she was doing all the things that the first husband demanded because she just wanted to support and care for her husband. And so that's kind of what Jesus is trying to do, that he wants to accept us and come into not religion, but a relationship with him. He wants to accept us. And as we experience that healing and transformation, that even though we don't measure up, Jesus accepts us because of the cross, then that triggers a change in behavior, and he empowers us to live as he wants us to live. And so from the outside it can look like religion, but on the inside it feels completely different, because we're not doing stuff because we have to. We're not doing stuff to get rewards and because we're feared of punishment. We're doing it out of love because we've got a relationship with a God who accepts us, and that makes all the difference. And it's so easy to feel inadequate, that we don't quite measure up. And it's not just kind of religions with explicitly called religions that are the problem. We can have religions that are very religious around our political beliefs, around how we dress. There's all sorts of pressures around us that make us feel inadequate. And if you struggle with your self-worth, maybe you want to check out that video. And I just tell you the story about how for a long time I struggled with my own self-worth, and that story just shares how I eventually found the solution. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate all your support. If you want to subscribe, then that would be lovely, but I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, everyone.